I went, I cast my vote, there's now a nominee. Technically, I'm just a conservative.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, there will be room for everybody. They say it's a big tent, and we'll see if that's the case so far. Like I said, at least within my congressional district and the leadership there, they've been glad that we're there and we are doing the work. I'm
So some are sticking.
Yeah.
Some obviously are gonna. I suppose for a lot of people, for a lot of newcomers to the political game, to the political system, this was kind of a one and done kind of deal. You think?
Yeah. There's always a certain amount of attrition, and with something like this, like you said, there was this massive groundswell of new blood that came out and caucused and went to the various levels, and it'd be nice if they'd all stay involved, because whether you're Democrat or Republican, if you don't get out there and get involved and try and make a change, nothing's going to change.
Right.
And I tried to even encourage Democrats. I know it's like, well, do something. Find a candidate you support, whether it's, I prefer city generally. City government is closer to the people, and
it's something you actually have a say over, right?
Yeah, people are more likely to get involved, actually want to talk to you. We had some people doing some calling for McCain and some people calling for a local school board candidate, and when you said, presidential politics, they hang up. And it's not against McCain per se, it's just that they're burned out. This race has been going on for a year and a half. You say school board, and they're like, I have kids, what do you got? And they're more interested in something local that actually affects them directly. So, I'm trying to be involved more in local politics than presidential for now.
Okay, well, why don't you, now, a couple of the delegates I was talking to during the week was, things didn't really get going until 6:30, right?
Yeah, the schedule was for Monday to have a 2:30 to 10 o'clock session, but because of the threat of the hurricane, they didn't want to have a party and have festivities while there was potentially a natural disaster occurring, so they cut it short to about 2 hours and just dealt with the actual business that needed to be conducted. But from then on, it was about 6:20 to about 10:30.
Tuesday and Wednesday?
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
And so what goes on during the day?
Mostly, various receptions, meet and greets with various people. Various corporations will have, a brunch and invite you over, talk about issues. One was
Were you treated? I mean, you were still a delegate, just like everyone else. Every other delegate, whether you were, a McCain supporter or a Ron Paul supporter. I mean, you were a delegate. You were one of, the few. And so, were you treated pretty special? Was there some, did you feel important?
It was some of the parties were pretty elaborate. Some of them were smaller, and the daytime afternoon receptions were smaller, and it was various groups trying to get you interested in potentially helping them out. One was dealing with healthcare issues and trying to help people live healthier lifestyles. So it's not like people see it's this corporate interest that's trying to bribe the system, and They had a gal, and she gave a speech and said, if you're interested in spreading the word, helping out, whatever.
And these were held in just different smaller areas in the hotels and in the convention center?
Various locations around town.
Okay. And you had an open invitation to all of them as a delegate?
Yep. There were invites generally were sent out by email, and you could RSVP to whatever you liked. You were not required to attend anything. There were some people that chose to not attend anything, and some people that attended all of them. I attended better than half, probably 3/4.
What were some more of the interesting ones you went to?
Well, there was a reception over at the depot in downtown Minneapolis, the old railway depot, and that was pretty interesting. Just seeing the size and scope of that many, number of different delegations gathering. You're meeting people from other states. You're exchanging a few political war stories. I spent some time actually a fair amount of time talking to people I knew, just talking politics with people that I'm probably going to be working with locally and getting to know them a little better.
Were there do people party? Is it a week-long party for some of the delegates too?
You probably could if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I chose not to party too heavily. I wanted to be clear-headed and ready for my duties at the RNC, which, honestly, primarily we're talking to other delegates, talking to the media, just trying to spread the message of liberty is how we saw our role there. Is, like I said on the floor, your job was to pretty much sit there and look good. So
I'm wondering if some people just go there and treat it like a week-long party, or if some people go there and treat it like a week-long business trip, or
some do. I had one of the Minnesota alternates, say that the Ron Paul people shouldn't come because we were going to spoil the fun. This was a party for the people who deserved it, and I just shrugged him off. It takes all kinds, I guess.
Yeah. Why is it? I'm upset that it's such a big deal. That it's such a big deal, but it is such a big deal because there's so much influence and money and power involved, isn't there? I mean,
well, but if at least realistically, from my perspective, since the whole thing's decided more or less in advance. Okay, technically, Ron Paul suspended his campaign. It was a handful of weeks before national, but then he was the last one to drop out.
Yeah. So
you can call it even a month before. It was known that McCain was going to be the nominee. There was really no stopping that.
Right.
So that was decided.
Right.
So I mean, there really wasn't. I don't understand why it's a big deal for everybody, because, I mean, you're not going there to debate. You're not going to be doing what we did at the earlier conventions that you probably saw some of, which would at least, if we did that on a national level, we'd be there for weeks.
Yeah.
You get 2,500 delegates on the floor and you start debating a policy position, and you'd get an issue decided every 2 or 3 weeks, and you could be there for a year. So I can understand to a certain degree why that can't happen. But on the flip side, since so much of it's decided in advance, I don't know why it was such a big deal for the protesters either. Now, it turns out that at least a number of them were paid to be there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had a friend who works with law enforcement, and some of these kids, once they got arrested, their support system was cut off. All of a sudden, there's no one there to back them up. They don't have a ride home. They're just on their own. One of them asked how to walk from St. Paul to the Greyhound bus depot in Minneapolis, because that was what he was stuck doing, was trying to take a Greyhound bus home. And so at least some of them were paid, basically agitators. And so I imagine you've got...
But I mean, does that even affect the convention, though? I mean, they were so far from where any delegates were. It's not like anything inside the convention can even be affected in the least bit due to protesters.
I don't know that I even recall hearing any delegates really talk about the protesters, other than I did hear one couple over here. Hey, are there protesters? Well, if you go to such and such a level and look out this window on this side, you can kind of see them. And so there's a mild sense of morbid curiosity amongst at least a few of them, but for the most part, it didn't really come up. We were kind of ensconced in our own little world behind a really big fence. And we were told that, being the host state, we were going to be kind of front and center. And so my feeling is you dress professionally. This is, at least to a lot of people, a very serious deal. And you don't take it casually by wearing just a $20 sport coat from Ragstock. You actually put on a nice suit and a good tie and behave in a respectable manner, because I mean, you are on live TV and you are a representative for your state, and regardless of differences in political candidates, I am one of 41 people that was there to represent our state, and that we all took very seriously.
All right. Well, we're about out of time. Thank you very much for being the guest on the show today.
Thanks again for having me.
Appreciate it. And thank you for watching this episode of Minneapolis Expression. Look forward to next time when I get to bring on another guest, interview them, and talk about what they do to express themselves in the city. Thank you.